Research-based teaching strategies, comparing, contrasting, classifying, analogies, and metaphors. Or place-based learning of a mock-up gallery for an artist. Here we have multiple pictures, each one a little bit different, but also the same. Comparing and contrasting these items. What do you see? What's different, but what's also similar? Many different answers can appear from each of these questions. The ability to break down a concept into its similar and dissimilar characteristics allows students to understand complex problems by analyzing them in a simple way. So, for instance, what do you see that is the same but also different? All the medium is the same, it's all spray paint, but how are they different? Well, the picture size, or what the pictures are representing, those are all different, but there's also many different similarities. For instance, many of them have different planets, or moons, or celestial objects, or they could all mean the same thing to the artist or viewers. There are some pitfalls with this, though. For instance, having them just comparing and contrasting these paintings without a definitive goal in mind. If they're just comparing and contrasting without saying compare and contrast them or just compare them to how they represent nature, well, then that simplifies it down and you can get to a more defined goal. So the pitfall would be, don't be too broad. You would need to definitely visualize a goal or have an actual goal down for each of the students or for your class or lesson plan. Now we go on to classifying. Classifying is a process of grouping things that are alike into categories on the basis of their characteristics. So we'll get a better image of each of these. And then we'll pause for a little bit and in your mind, group them up, classify them. How are we classifying them? Are we classifying them by size, by content, by material? These are different ways to classify them. After the break, I'll have them classified into a way, and then we can compare and contrast how I classified them and how you classified them. At this time, pause and discuss amongst the groups to which ways you would classify them. And we're back. So, how did I classify these? Personally, I went with content, and the content was planets. Simple way of doing it. I put all the planets on this part of the table. This other side has no planets. No planets in that one. No celestial objects besides perhaps stars. And same with this one. No actual planet or moon, but maybe perhaps stars. You could also classify them by size or colors that the students see. There are different ways of classification. A little bit later on, you could even do the style that they're in. The pitfalls with classification are that if you're not specific enough of what type of classification, or if it's too broad, or the things are too similar to actually be classified, could cause an issue with the students. Tips to avoiding it is just be more clear, be specific, have a goal and a plan for the students and for them to move forward with the classification. Next, we begin to talk about analogies and metaphors. Analogies are resemblance in some particulars between things otherwise unlike, such as, you are as annoying as nails on a chalkboard. Now, what is the similarities between that? That the person who is annoying and nails on a chalkboard, the noise that the chalkboard and nails make is annoying, such as the person. The metaphor, however, is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which is not literally applicable, such as, her eyes were fireflies. If her eyes were fireflies, she would be blind, and she would literally have bugs in her eyes, and that would not be attractive unless you are, say, a frog or an insect-eating critter. However, the metaphor is saying that her eyes were twinkling or were bright or something. Now, art in itself could be both. The analogy for art, you can physically make it, or it is interpreted through the art. Same with the metaphor. Art is a lie. Well, that's a pretty good metaphor. What is it saying, though? The art is physically there. It is touchable. It is obtainable. But what is it a lie of? What makes it a lie? Is it a representation of, for instance, that perfection is not obtainable? That is a possibility. The metaphors and analogies are, the pitfalls are, it's hard. If you don't do it right, you could confuse people, or it just doesn't make any sense. So the easiest way to avoid that is to take your time and really work on making a good one that helps your lesson or your idea that you're trying to get across. For instance, life could be a getaway, or is a getaway. A painting is a way to leave the world, right? You're not physically leaving the world, but this painting could represent that you are leaving the world behind. And now we come to the end of the research-based strategies presentation. Hopefully you learned a little bit about the compare, contrast, and classifying, analogies, and metaphor-based research. And I will leave you with a metaphor. Art is education.